If you remember fighting over who was going to be Legolas, Sam taking on an entire army of orcs, and Gandalf's bazooka staff, then you grew up playing Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King. But which one? Because there were 3 completely different versions of this game, and in this video we're going to compare each of them. And so we come to the final chapter in the trilogy. Now, the Fellowship games were all over the place due to the mixed license agreements. The Two Towers games were a lot more streamlined because EA were pretty much the only publisher by that point, and so the Return of the King game would continue to build on and refine EA's formula. As always, we start with the flagship version for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, GameCube, and PC. And just like its predecessor, this game has a ton of movie footage which morphs into game cutscenes. And it also starts with an action-packed prologue/tutorial level. You play as Gandalf just as he makes his fashionably late arrival at the Battle of Helm's Deep. The combat and gameplay is near identical to the Two Towers. You have a mixture of attacks and projectile weapons. In Gandalf's case, his wizard staff acts like a shotgun, and later on, if you max out the character's stats, it just turns into a straight-up rocket launcher.
They cannot withstand him!
This time we do get interactive environments which help you in taking on the enemies. You know, I don't really remember Gandalf launching catapult in the movie, but sure, why not? Once the tutorial is over, the game splits into 3 branching paths. The Path of the Wizard, where you follow Gandalf, Path of the Hobbits, where you play as Sam and Frodo, and the one most people associate with this game, the Path of the King, where you can play as Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli. Now, this path also allows you to play through the levels in 2-player co-op. To clarify, every level can be played co-op after you complete the game. However, the Path of the King allows this from the start, and so we'll cover it first. So we start with a trilogy of levels where the trio fight their way through the Cave of the Dead.
Be ready! These spirits bring ancient bones to life!
You don't have to shout, Aragorn, I'm right next to you. This game does have the old school static camera, which gets a bit annoying in these narrow levels. I always wondered, what are all those ghosts on the side doing? Are they like going to work? So you fight through the army of ghosts, killing them again, before confronting the King of the Dead himself. The final part has you escaping the caves as they collapse, and this is a level where both players have to pull their weight, and if you just happen to be playing this with your stupid younger brother who never pays attention because he's always staring at his phone, then put the controller down because you're never going to make it out of these caves. Look, Gimli knows, he just teleports straight out of there. Just like with the Two Towers, completing the levels allows you to purchase upgrades and new moves. And I love seeing the characters perform the moves before you buy them. My favorite is the entire squad doing a breakdance. So the trio then arrive at the Southern Gate, ready to join the battle for Minas Tirith. Alright, here we go. Whoops, sorry about that, Legolas. Oh great, if only Aragorn hadn't wasted all the spears f***ing around. Gimli, please, we have to go. This game does add the extra satisfying mechanic of pouring molten metal on the orcs. The next level has you taking on hordes of Easterlings. Now, just like the last game, the static camera in this level means you don't actually know who you're shooting, but you seem to be doing pretty well, and now you can do it with a friend. A lot of the levels in this game feel like set pieces, like this one where you have to stop the big elephant from crushing Eowyn and Merry. Oh, come on, he didn't even touch them. And so we come to the final level on this path, the Black Gate. We start by taking on the Mouth of Sauron, who's been shopping at Baby Gap by the looks of it. Now, this fight is a bit more balanced if you're doing it on your own, but if you're doing it co-op, it just looks like a World Star hip-hop video. Look, they're beating this poor guy like he owes them money.
Suffered greatly.
Now we have to take on the entire army of Sauron. Legolas, now is not the time to have a rave. And the NPC characters aren't much better. Look at Gimli, just standing in the corner twirling his axe. Right, so you take out the orcs, then the generals, then the ring wraiths, and then finally that's it for the Path of the King. Moving on to the Hobbits. This first level is pretty straightforward. Just make your way through Osgiliath and try to avoid being seen by the Nazgul, because he will take Frodo, who doesn't even bother to put up a fight. Look, he just stands there like, I've had enough, eat me. As I mentioned initially, you can only play these levels as Sam, but after completing the game you can pick from a variety of characters, and I always found adding Frodo as the second character just made Sam seem like he was going insane.
Okay, Samwise. Mr. Frodo was counting on you to rescue him no matter what.
I'm right here, Sam. Poor Sam, I think he's finally had too much. Sam and Frodo then make their way through Shelob's lair, where Frodo rescues himself from the spider, only for the orcs to take him away. Right, so the next level has Sam, the little 4-foot gardener hobbit, single-handedly take on 80 orcs. And I think the developers realized how ludicrous this was, so they added a bunch of booby traps that Sam can now activate along the way. The final hobbit level takes place inside Mount Doom. Again, you're supposed to play this level as just Frodo, but I think it's more fun to have both Frodo and Sam double team poor Gollum. But you know what? Old Smeagol still holds his own, kicking, slapping, and breakdancing. Anyway, eventually you kick him into the volcano, the ring is destroyed, and everyone lives happily ever after. And finally we have the Path of the Wizard. Following on from the prologue, Gandalf chases the retreating Uruk-hai into the forest. Come back, you lot, I'll fucking have you. Gandalf then teams up with Treebeard and his crew to stamp out the remaining orcs. Just watch out you don't get squashed as well. Shit. I also like the fact that as Gandalf makes his way through the level, he and Saruman talk wizard smack to each other over, I don't know, wizard wireless.
Saruman, the time of unmaking is at hand.
Such anger, I pity.
I also think it's pretty cool that they use this level as a bridge between the movies. Like, we never saw this part, but it makes sense the Fellowship would have to fight their way into Isengard. Although, I never imagined Gandalf would be taking out entire watchtowers with his rocket launcher.
I shall now help the Ents and do the final support.
Thanks for telling us, mate. The next level takes place at Minas Tirith, and this is kind of a sequel to this level from the Two Towers. You know, the one where you have to run around the wall kicking down ladders. The twist this time is that the Nazgul is flying around and you've got to shoot it down. This level ends with a mad scramble to the door. Oh jeez, I'm getting flashbacks to running for the Central Line during rush hour. Excuse me. And then the final Gandalf level has you protecting all these generic women of Gondor from the orcs. And just like the last Aragorn level, you've got to fight through waves and waves of enemies as they slowly get bigger and tougher. And that's it for the main campaign. I remember thinking this game was so much bigger than its predecessor, but it only has one more level than the Two Towers. I think splitting the campaign into 3 parts gave it a much larger sense of scope, plus the stellar co-op added a ton of replayability to the game. There are of course a bunch of bonus features, like interviews and making of footage, along with 2 Palantir levels, where you take on 20 waves of enemies, similar to Saruman's tower in the last game. Okay, moving on, we have the Game Boy Advance version, once again developed by Kryptonite Games. This version is also very similar to its predecessor. It's a Diablo-style hack and slash. You make your way through levels, collecting jewels, items, and weapons the enemy drops. There are 6 playable characters: Aragorn, Legolas, Gimli, Gandalf, Eowyn, and Frodo. Let's start with Aragorn. Look at him, chopping down hordes of Uruk-hai. It's just too bad he doesn't have the fortitude to walk over these puddles. Saruman, open up. It's Gondor PD. Hey, Gandalf, you've got a spell to open this door? No? Fine, we'll have to go around. Oh look, a river of chocolate. I bloody well hope it's chocolate. And so Aragorn makes his way into the tower. We then see a quick PowerPoint followed by this animation of Saruman falling down. Oh, these guys are stone cold. Look, they don't even flinch. I mean, Gandalf, a foot to the right and you'd have been splattered. Moving on, as you progress through the game, the characters learn new abilities. For example, Aragorn can heal, throw his blade, and, yell? Help us, the goblins have raided the camps, please save the hostages. They don't look like they mind, to be honest. Oh no, it's one of Sauron's evil squirrels. Take that, rodent fiend. So we trek through the caves where we take on the undead ghosts, spooky skeletons, and, bees? Are they undead bees? You then beat up the King of the Dead and recruit him. The trio then cut across the mountains and intercept Sauron's Corsair forces. Here it is, the Mop of Sauron, the Rat of Sauron, the half-eaten lunch of Sauron. Aragorn takes over the boats and lands at Minas Tirith with the battle already raging on. There's Gandalf. He's not fighting very hard though, is he? Okay, so is it time for the big battle of Minas Tirith? Now you just walk up to the door and bam, you're on your way to Mount Doom. So yes, the final battle is against the Mouth of Sauron, although this one is a bit more involved than the console version. And that's it. Sauron is defeated. Your ranking, orc fodder. What? Now, both Legolas and Gimli have the same campaign as Aragorn. Of course, the characters themselves play differently. Legolas can shoot his funky arrows, sometimes at a 90-degree angle. Meanwhile, Gimli is a bit more compact, but seems to hit harder. Gandalf's levels are similar, but he actually gets to fight Sauron in hamster ball combat, and you get to battle inside the city itself with Green Frodo. I mean Pippin. As for Eowyn, she spends most of her time fighting in the fields alongside Pink Frodo. I mean Merry. And finally, we have the original Frodo, and naturally his campaign is different from all the other characters because he and Sam have to venture deep into Mordor. They start by climbing up this mountain, then going through these dark caves. Oh cool, Frodo's learned HM5 Flash. He then takes a few boulders to the face before getting bitten by Shelob and taken by the orcs. You then switch to playing as Sam for a little bit while he rescues Frodo. The two hobbits then make their way up Mount Doom, where they take a few more boulders to the face, and then we get to the final boss. It's just this. He doesn't even breakdance this time around. Wait, what are these pigeons doing? Oh wait, these are the actual eagles coming to save them. And that's it for the Game Boy Advance game. Just like the Two Towers, this is a solid Diablo-style game. It doesn't really add any new mechanics, but hey, at least you get to play as Gimli from the start this time. And there is a multiplayer mode where you and a friend can take on orcs together. Now, before I move on, I do want to mention the third text-based adventure game based on Return of the King that was released in 1989. And just like the first two games, I was terrible at it. So we're going to move on to the mobile version, which was released around the same time as the movie and ran on Java-compatible phones. Right, so that's Aragorn, I think. Now, I read in the controls that you can jump. Let's see. Hup. Ah, shit. So yes, this is a basic action game. You walk around, slowly, jumping platforms, slashing at enemies, and shooting arrows straight from the pelvis. And so there we have it, every Return of the King tie-in game. I think most people would agree this was the peak of the trilogy. The flagship has gone down as one of the best licensed games ever made due to its solid gameplay and fun co-op. Meanwhile, the Game Boy Advance game is also pretty well regarded, even if many of the levels were recycled across the 6 playable characters. As always, please let me know your memories of Return of the King in the comments. We're done with the movie trilogy, but let me know if you'd like me to cover some of the other Middle-earth based games, like the Third Age, the Hobbit game, or the Lego games. And if you'd like to see more Lord of the Rings content from me, then please check out my second channel, AI Storytime, where I attempt to retell famous movies through AI-generated images, with some interesting results. Here's a snippet from my Fellowship of the Ring video. Luckily, Frodo was allowed to bring a couple of friends along. There was Sam Wise, that's better. And look, he's already holding a potato. There was also Mary. No, not Merry Christmas. Mary Brandybuck. That'll do, I guess. And finally, Pippin, who was in a hair metal band. As always, thanks for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and follow me on Twitter. See you next time.